Welcome to Journey Now, a podcast about following Jesus that takes on serious issues without ever taking itself too seriously. Each week, the pastors, staff, and friends of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee gather to catch up, share life together, and laugh a little. Okay, a lot. Maybe too much. But along the way, they also explore what it really means to bring heaven to earth, share Jesus' hospitality, and live cross-shaped lives. Part babble, part Bible, and occasionally even thoughtful and entertaining. This is Journey Now.
Could be worse. There's other names you could call us.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Fellas?
Yes.
Hey, fellas.
Yeah. It rhymes. Yeah. There are lots of things. But certain body parts. Suzie was thrown around yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
You were on fire yesterday.
You were on fire.
You were
on fire.
It was great.
Yep.
It was glorious.
Grief had hollowed you out and the fences were down. And it was like,
whoa!
The filter.
We were talking about the body of Christ.
Yes.
And uniformity.
There are some unpresentable parts.
Some congregations have the uniformity of certain parts.
Yes,
and
that's all it was.
Some congregations have the uniformity of other parts.
Yes. Welcome to the Journey Now podcast. Please keep all of that
so glad you're here.
And so
parts are parts. Parts are parts.
Yeah. Yeah. So welcome to the Journey Now podcast. Tim Timmons is not present.
We're recording?
Heck yeah, that was your intro. That was amazing.
I just feel like I needed
That was incredible. Are you kidding me? I'm looking at Ed when he's giving me a thumbs up. I'm like, yes, this is it.
Somebody caught the last end of our conversation there.
Yes, yes. Suzie was using the metaphor of the body from Paul in 1 Corinthians 12 to creative use. That's all we're saying. Now, listen.
Yes, creative.
Tim Timmons is in California.
Yes.
So we're going to miss him, which means we have a surprise guest.
Yes, he's VBSing.
He is VBSing.
Yes.
And so hallelujah for Tim. Suzie is back.
And I'm
back
his
after
chair,
being in the Californias.
I feel an obligation.
Yes,
I'm sorry I talked over you.
No, it's okay.
What did you say?
I just said I'm back after being in the Californias for a couple weeks.
That's right.
So I'm just, a little warming up.
You're warming up. Yes. And I mean, I think we've talked about it on the show that this was a very, 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 very heavy 2 weeks.
Very heavy.
Very sad.
And so, beyond, and then you're going back to do a memorial service this weekend. And so, we're glad you're back. We see how hard this has been. And
thank you.
I just, and it's Suzie's story to tell if she wants to, but the way you were present in the midst of all that was happening was pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So we all have massive amounts of attention and grace for how heavy this has been for the last several months. And if you're new, Suzie, just a dear family friend, was diagnosed with ALS.
Just in January.
In January. And
it went really fast.
6 months. Dang it.
Yeah.
Well, he had it, he started developing symptoms over a year ago.
Still.
So,
took him a while to diagnose.
At the beginning of 2023. So it took a year to diagnose, and then he was diagnosed in January, and then it just...
Yeah, right after his 50th birthday.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so as, people who've been, the dozen or so that listen to this regularly know.
Which half a dozen of them probably know him.
Yeah. So that's the great part.
Yeah.
Is that... the Christian life is this mix, and it's never just one or the other, but it's this mix of beauty and sadness and joy and grief, and so anyway, we're glad you're back.
Thanks.
And I know that's been a hard thing. Is there anything you want to mention, say, anything that
besides a shout out to Brad?
Yeah, Brad wasn't there.
Brad was not there.
But
I was
he was
looking
probably
for
there
him.
in spirit.
Yeah. No, I mean, what's funny or interesting is that there's actually, Dave was on one of our podcasts very early on.
No way.
Yeah, I think it was in either 2020 or 2021.
Ooh.
Steve and I did a podcast with Dave and Victory.
No way.
On date night.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
It was really fun, yeah.
Oh,
that was when we were doing one a day.
I think so.
Oh, was that pandemic cast?
I think so.
Oof. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he was
good pull.
A really one of the best friends I've ever had, and a big part of my formation.
Yeah.
So
and to see, I mean, from an outsider perspective, to see the tribe sort of regather from that season around him.
Yeah.
Because you guys were all in like community together.
Totally. I mean, like they're friends that are family. Like our kids feel like cousins to each other, and you know, we're all aunt, uncle to our, I mean, like I love their kids like I love my kids, and they love my kids like theirs. So it's one of those like like everyone in our family has just been devastated by this, but he left a really great legacy of hope and faith, and you know, he lived very authentically, and you know, like I mean, he has been the greatest example of walking with Jesus of anybody really that I know. So
present company included. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean,
no, but I think so. I think that's actually true for
Yeah.
sure. When he was diagnosed, he started these vlogs on Instagram that were just remarkable, and you're just like, I'm thrilled I got to meet him at least once.
Yeah.
First thing he said was, "Hey, I'm a Michigan fan," and I was like, "Well,
that's too bad."
I know we're wearing blue and yellow at the memorial.
Oh no. Okay, I'm glad
you weren't
invited.
invited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So proud of you.
It's really hard to banter anything funny about this.
Oh, it's awful.
But what is actually funny that I didn't know until last week
I was going to do a community
he
like
doesn't, he like doesn't own anything red. Like it's that. I mean, he's like really diehard.
That's way. Well, didn't Jim Harbaugh, the coach, previous coach of Michigan, call him?
Yeah, he's had 2 phone calls with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty great.
San Diego Chargers.
Well, it's great.
He's no longer Michigan. He went to San Diego.
I mean, and let's be honest, Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, I'm happy that Dave was happy.
Yes.
I think Dave could have chosen much more wisely.
Well, I think that the Lord had favor with him because Michigan, didn't they like win?
Yeah, they won the national championship
for Dave.
For Dave.
I'll receive that. If that's why it happened, I'll receive that.
Jehovah Rapha.
I don't know. I don't know all the Jehovah names. Me? Sure. I think people make up this stuff, but okay. I don't know. I mean, it seems
Jehovah
like
Harbaugh? No.
Funny. There you go.
That's not it.
Jehovah Harbaugh. Yes. The God Who Wears Khakis. Because Harbaugh's very famous for wearing khakis. Okay, I didn't know.
All the time. I
knew that.
And he sleeps in them.
He sleeps in them. There's Anyway.
His wife has verified that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Susie's back, and you know, we're in the middle of a series of conversations about the positive side of community, which is exactly what you got to taste.
Yes.
So we all admit there's a dark side, and abusive side, and a negative side, and an awful side.
Right.
Well, and it's so interesting because we actually had a lot of conversations about that in the last couple of months, because the Ludwigs and us were part of a community where a lot of stuff went down. And, you know, we would talk about how easy it is to talk about the really like harmful and bad experiences we had there, but also that like there were so many good and beautiful things that came out of that time. One being our friendship, and even the way that we walk with Jesus has been refined because of those experiences. And so, you know, I wouldn't want to go back and do those again. In hindsight, I would do a lot of things differently. Sure. And also I can really appreciate what has come out of all of that. So I think it's important as we continue in this conversation that we also remember.
Special guest.
Yes.
Wow. Of being refined.
Yes. Speaking of community. Wow. Oh, Sherwine, hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we have a dozen listeners, Sherwine, and 4 of those watch on YouTube. So 4 of you are seeing our friend Sherwine.
We only have 11.
11, because you're one? Oh! That's funny.
There you go.
Well done.
Good
so you've
pull.
listened to this
Good pull.
before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't catch them all, but yeah.
And you
let's
still
be
want to
honest.
go to church here?
Bruh, I be talking to God like, Lord, are you sure? Don't just
This is where you have me?
Yeah. So just a bit of background. So we do a Q&A thing, Q&R. We call it Kevin corrects me all the time. It's not Q&A because my answers aren't usually great.
And you don't always have an answer. Sometimes it's just, I don't know.
It's the blank stare.
Yeah, it's like
especially when
still a
Sherwine
response.
asks the question. I feel
so
Question in a long time.
Sherwine has
taming
the most
myself.
amazing gift of curiosity.
Yes.
And has been just an amazing participant in our community, particularly in that. Like that's so. I mean, Kevin and I will talk about on Monday. We will talk about the questions that you were asking to each of us individually.
Okay.
Yes, and we appreciate that.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
So we absolutely love you. So tell us, just give us a little background on Sherwine. Where were you born?
Okay.
And like, where were you raised? What was your faith tradition like?
Okay.
And also, what are you doing now? Because I think what you're doing for your work is also very interesting.
It is very cool.
I am from Stamford, Connecticut.
That's what I'm talking about.
My family's Haitian, so we grew up in a Haitian church, which kind of means something different. Like it's not like a
You mean it's not like Journey?
at all.
Do you speak Creole?
This is full heresy. Yes, I do
Okay.
speak Creole. Yeah, the
Wow.
Journey they would like despise it. My mom asked me the other day, like, what do you believe about gay people? And I was like, do you really want to know?
No, she doesn't want to know.
And she was like, oh, it's probably going to be a long answer. So I think, and I hope y'all edit that out because I don't want any follow-up questions. But so
Does your mom listen to this?
no, I
you're
can send
safe.
it to her.
Yeah,
but no, she doesn't listen
we've
to it.
set the bar
I
so
won't
low.
even tell her.
Okay.
Set the bar so
yeah,
low.
like
Sherwine.
so. I grew up in Connecticut. Grew up in a Haitian church, and then I worked as a missionary for 8 years, a campus missionary, which you know a little bit about campus ministry. So.
I do.
Worked as a campus ministry for 8 years, and then in 2022, that kind of like blew up where I was it was already kind of like, something's weird kind of thing, but then it kind of blew up when I had my own like, I don't know if it was like an epiphany, but it was just more like, this is not fitting me. It's one of those things where you kind of look up and you're 36 and you're like, wait, what? Like.
And just a note to the listeners, that feeling of something's weird, in
Yeah.
some circles we call that discernment.
Really?
Yes, I've been trying to tell her
That's
that.
not
I
a
was
bad
talking
thing.
Trying to
I'm just
explain that to
saying,
you on Sunday.
there's been
because
more than one
everybody else
occasion.
was fine, and
Yeah.
I was the one that
Right.
was like,
Like-
but that doesn't make sense
Yeah, yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
There's been more than one occasion where I've had that feeling, and I
Yeah.
really wish I had listened more intently.
Yeah, I
to it.
suppressed
When she said
it
yes to this job
very
is one
well.
of those.
I mean, maybe.
But yeah,
When she said yes to a podcast? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm studying special education, and looking forward to just seeing what God has in store for sure.
Love it. Love it. So Sherwine's a great example.
And I
of-
recently did my hair like this. My hair was not like this.
No, it is
Yeah.
amazing.
Y'all
Yeah.
needed to know that. That was
You
very
do change it up, though.
Listen,
I do.
listen.
I tried.
You
yeah.
change it up.
I know it's not
Mike keeps his hair like this often.
often.
Yeah.
But you showed up and I was like, and it took everything I had not to just go, not to say something. Because in the back of my head is Lori Dixon saying, you don't comment on women's hair. And I'm like, okay.
You can do it privately, I think, like just on a one-on-one.
Well, because you had the best line. You had the best
That was
rejoinder
so
in history. Because I was
funny.
like,
Yeah.
because you did your hair. You looked beautiful that day. And I was like, hey, I really like your hair.
You said it from the front.
From the front.
Yeah.
Because Sherwine puts herself out there. I know she can handle it.
I do.
And so I said, hey, nice hair.
I try not to. It's like definitely impulsive, and then later driving home, I'm like, why did you say that?
Oh, but
it's
you
awesome.
said back. So I said nice hair, and
Yeah.
you said you too. And then it was about 5 minutes to get the whole church back on focus.
Yes.
So we were just diving into a bit of the topic. You know how this works.
Yeah.
We screw around a little bit, and then we process some of the big questions and issues that are coming up from the conversations that we're having on Sunday. And there's a lot that's being stirred up. So it was Father's Day.
That's right. It was Father's Day.
Yes, Kevin went to see Hairspray, the musical. Which,
Yes, which he loved.
Of all the guesses I would have had about how Kevin would spend his Father's Day, that was not one of them.
You and everybody that knows me.
Yeah, I was like, you know that's a musical, right? My family had left.
Yeah, you were all
We didn't know I
alone.
was all alone, and so I took a nap, and I got I took a picture for my family of me getting drive-through Wendy's lettuce wrap burgers saying Happy Father's Day to me.
Shaming.
And and I hope they felt appropriately bad.
A little passive aggressive.
I don't think they did.
Yeah.
I think they were like, "Oh, you're fine. You
I
love
wonder
this."
why.
Yeah. So we were talking about, and no one, we don't plan this, doggone it, but we're talking about the passages where Jesus is saying you got to leave your mother and father, hate your mother and father, do the things. And so it was not a great Father's Day.
Actually, I thought
message.
it was a really good Father's Day message.
I know, but in theory, it was like talking about children of hell on Mother's Day.
That was better.
That was better. We improved. So we're exploring. So we talked about the negative side of community, which we've all experienced, and for some of us, we've participated in. But we're trying to hold on to the positive side of community, which is it's still present and here and kind of non-negotiable for what it is to be a God person. And but it's threatening, and it's kind of stirring up
100%.
a whole bunch of stuff. Do you feel that too?
Yeah, I keep having enough grace to be, because the most annoying part about it is that you keep saying next week. And it's just, I'm just like, okay, then we'll wait. I feel like
I don't even have it written.
If you
I have
can
no
give
idea.
like a concordance, a table of content,
Yeah.
like on the week, on day
I
one.
like that. I like that. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Mike, that would be great. Could we have a table of contents?
Yes.
Week
So
one
we
of
can
the
just,
series?
like,
Yes.
Join you.
The problem is we will redo that every.
Yes, all the time, and you
Totally.
change your
15
mind.
minutes.
It's a commitment to do that because you don't get to like. Yeah.
Well, because and here's the gift. The gift is the thing changes as people ask questions, or as
Okay.
people, so
Yeah.
Kevin will come in on Monday and say, "Hey, here's what our convos were like."
Okay.
We'll look at the text questions and we'll
Yeah.
reflect on the questions we got in the service and go, "Hey, this seems to be a stumbling block."
Yeah.
So I'll do a whole bunch of broad study and kind of have a loose plan, but our church really sort of directs where the conversation
Which is part
goes.
of the idea of it not just being like a guy on the platform
Right.
telling everybody what to do.
Yeah.
It's being,
Totally.
it actually is being shaped by the community.
Yeah. So Kev, what
I like
were the convos like, or any text questions we got?
One of the questions I think that we are gonna have to
There
wrestle
it
with
is.
a little bit. Not
There
you,
it is.
We, but talk about is how do you delineate this thing? Like when you describe community, what the community should look like, and how we enter into that community. How's that different than being cult-like? That was part of the conversation on Sunday in the
for
room.
sure.
And it
Were you
was,
in the room, the convos with
Oh
Kevin?
yeah,
she was.
Oh yeah, she was.
And we just brought up discernment a minute ago, but as we wade into that idea, it sounds a little like, if you describe it like you did on Sunday, it feels a little like, wait a minute, do I lose my whole individuality to enter into this?
Good.
Do I lose my, what am I in that? And I think that was probably one of the more poignant conversations that we had on Sunday.
Because one of the things, and just to review a little bit about why people were thinking that. And then let's talk about it, because that's a great topic.
Because it's worthy.
Yes.
And people
very
are
much
fearful,
so.
because part of the bad religion
Yes.
is losing yourself in something and then getting abused by it.
We also do have a pretty significant amount of people who have come out of cults.
We know.
We
fair.
surprisingly we find this out.
Wait a minute, that sounds a lot like what I was about.
There are people who know what that feels like. So.
So just to recap, if 11 of you were not listening on Sunday, but
6.
The New Testament, of course, the group is more important than the individual,
Right.
and that already is threatening.
Yeah.
So that like vocational choices, marital choices, those things were often held by the group and for the benefit of the group, not the individual fulfillment of the person.
Of the individual.
Right. And so already we're just, and again, there are problems with that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's assumed in the New Testament, because what Jesus does is he takes the highest picture of group loyalty, the family, and then the most specific picture of loyalty in the family, the loyalty between siblings, and he says, this is what I'm doing in creating a new community.
Yeah.
So that your biological family, it's not a choice between God and other people, it's a choice between God's people versus other people. And so you can hear all of the things ripe for abuse there.
Right.
You've got to cut off your ties. You've got to check with the pastor in order to, blah, blah, blah. One of the answers, at least we were suggesting, is that when Jesus talks about the new family he's creating, he never mentions there's a new father. He says, anyone who does the will of my Father or the Father in heaven is my mother or sister or brother. And so he doesn't say we're looking for fathers. We're not looking for positions of authority. We're not looking for positions of control. That's all. We got that one covered. That is my Father Yahweh.
And that's where most of the abuse takes place.
Exactly. When a human will step into that role and try to father everybody in very inappropriate, controlling kinds of ways.
Authoritarian.
Absolutely.
Dictatorial
kind
of.
Suzie was talking about that yesterday.
Yes, she was.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about it.
I think sometimes individuals might have the wrong perspective of what a father is in general.
So good.
Like, I can say that I find you controlling, but sometimes it's because I'm putting you in the position that you shouldn't be in. It's not something you're doing.
See, do you see, ladies and gentlemen, do you see the 11? Do you see the gift that she is?
Yes.
That's exactly right.
That's correct.
There is a complicity.
For sure. So I think the biggest, you're not saying that individual salvation or group salvation trumps individual salvation? You're not saying that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's another clarification. We definitely have to go into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying that salvation is salvation into a group. So I individually, yes, accept Jesus. But accepting Jesus in the first century didn't mean accepting Jesus into my heart. Accepting Jesus meant being a part of Jesus's group.
Joining a new community.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I think that undermines how much I might love the group, because like I could make the group an idol for me.
Of course.
And that can turn into something inappropriate. I think it's important to not forget your individuality still.
Well, yes. And that
because I can and I have forgotten myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So the best picture Paul gives us is something Kevin talked about in your class.
The body.
The body metaphor, where we're not all the same body part. So you are an individual. Maybe let's say you are an eyeball, because you're very insightful. And let's say
good pull.
Yes, and let's say I'm an elbow because I'm pointy.
Poignant.
I'm still an individual, but I'm an individual only in community. I'm an individual part, but I only make sense when I'm connected to the rest of the body.
Okay, but are you saying that it's balanced then? Like it's just
if balanced. And see, this is.
Well, what do you mean by balanced?
What I mean by balance is neither should trump the other. They both should be a part of what you're trying to do as a believer. You should try to be a part of a community and make that important, but also never forget your individual relationship with Christ. Both. Right. And one, if you're doing too much of the individual thing, you need to flow into the community thing. And if you're doing too much of the community thing, flow into the individual thing. Yeah.
You're right. You are absolutely right to say both sides of those can become idols. No question about it. But I think the teaching is more threatening than just keep these balanced. I think the teaching is, the more I wrestle with it, the more I'm threatened by it too. The teaching is, what does salvation look like?
Okay.
It is, and it involves an individual relationship to Jesus. But that language is never used in the Bible, not one time. It's always participation in God's group is how you have a relationship with God. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with God individually, but it means that my individualness isn't found in my distinction from the group. The individualness is found in my connection to a group that isn't uniform. So
that's
one of
really
the things,
important. The last word he said is really important.
Yeah, well, that you brought that up yesterday. That cults are all alike. You have to think alike. You have to sound alike. It's uniformity. We're interested. Families are unity. Where, man, we could disagree like crazy, but we're still related. Right? It's still not
not that families would disagree like crazy.
Hypothetical.
Come on, hypothetical.
Yeah. Right, but does that make a little more sense? So the fact that you have a body that has all kinds of different body parts is actually evidence that it's not a cult.
Okay. But I mean, places where they agree in uniformity, they would still have different body parts. Like, just because I'm agreeing with you doesn't mean I function how you function.
Agreed, but in some high control environments,
yeah,
that is the goal. The goal is that you would function like.
No, the goal is control. The goal is
that's what I'm saying.
I function how I function when you want me to function.
Right.
So if the toe is good at being a toe, I need the toe to be a toe when I need the toe to be a toe. And if I haven't told the toe,
so you're using the body parts exist for me.
Yes,
that's okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So totally. I don't think, and then it's also hard because Journey has leaders, so y'all have.
That's a low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit. I would say there's a little bit of compromise in what you're saying because we follow y'all to a certain degree. Like we look for what you're trying to display in the earth, and then I individually go back and decide what is and is not appropriate for my life.
Yeah.
So I just don't not see the balance thing. Yeah. And I also I don't know, like you keep saying, and I'm sorry, you keep saying like I'm not trying to be aggressive, but the first thing is, one of the areas where I was able to find grace in waiting the 7 weeks was you were saying in America, it's like this. In America, it's like this. And I grew up Haitian, and it's very much the village. Mm-hmm. And so...
Right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. In most other parts of the world.
Yeah. Like so you forget you're not even... Like your individuality is almost something you do privately to reveal to yourself, but it's not in essence, it's not important. And now I'm like, wait, I have a brain. Like I'm 36 and I have a brain. Like, so now
you really had to step out.
Yeah. But I loved it.
Yeah.
As well. Like I felt it was fun not thinking for yourself sometimes. And so it wasn't necessarily cultish, I wouldn't say, or maybe it was, but I just appreciated it so much at the time. But I think that there's still a space where the dialogue you're having is from your perspective.
Sure.
It feels like still.
Yeah.
But I respect what you're saying, and I think you also say that there's no perspective of that individual relationship. It sounds like you're saying there's no perspective of an individual relationship with Christ in the scripture.
Yeah, that language isn't used. I do think Jesus loves me and I'm with him individually.
And he does things individually with people, like with Paul, when he appears to Paul. I mean, that's a very individual thing he does, but he does that for the purpose of Paul going out into the community and having an assignment.
And I think that's the balance I'm trying to bring. And you're absolutely right. I mean, that's really insightful, Sherwine. I've come from an American Christian tribe that
which
is
I fully understand.
So individualistic. Yeah, but you're right to say that collectivist cultures this is gonna sound way differently from people who come from collectivist cultures and have fought hard and long for their sense of personal identity.
Yeah, or boundaries. Like I still have a hard time figuring out what those are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to transition just for a second. Kev, we were talking yesterday about the unity versus uniformity thing.
Yeah.
Let's spend a little more time there in terms of because it is a control thing.
It is.
And the goal of that control is
it depends on the individual, but ultimately to gain power. It is to exercise that well, you see it in the environments where we called them bounded. I'm staring at the book. But the bounded set of people is that in order to be a part of this group, you have to fill in the blank of you need to be baptized, you need to do this, you need to sign this paper, you need to whatever it is. And if you don't do that, you're not part of the group. And
at its worst, it's to serve a person, a
correct.
Human, like whether it's like how much money you're giving
and they
what
would
you're
never
sacrificing.
say that. Right. They would say that it's to serve God, but ultimately as you get into it, you realize, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I'm not serving God. I'm serving this person, or I'm serving an agenda, or I'm serving something other than Jesus. And when you realize that, it's oftentimes after a lot of well-intended things on your behalf that you've done, sacrifices that you've made, relationships that you've built, and you realize you're standing in the middle of a circle of everybody that looks like me, and acts like me, and thinks like me. And what it ultimately does is stifle the idea of curiosity, and it stifles the idea that I can be something other than this and still follow Jesus. And so it creates a mold that is set in stone that says this is what it looks like. Whereas on the opposite of the spectrum is curiosity, and also the idea that there's a million, probably 6 billion ways to follow Jesus, as we are all uniquely made in the way that God intended us to be. And so with that, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, is that we all individually image God in a way that only we can.
Right.
But if somebody takes that away from us, it doesn't just diminish the community, it diminishes our view of God. And that's the part that's extraordinarily frustrating. And it makes me angry when I encounter it.
Right. Yeah.
Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. And I want you to go from there into just real quick unity versus uniformity.
Oh, right. That's the question you asked me.
No, that was all good. That was all backwards for that.
So we set that up with this idea.
Yeah.
Is that the invitation is to uniformity is more comfortable. Uniformity is I know the boundaries.
I don't have to think for myself.
Yes. I'm just okay. I can get my cue from everybody else.
I fit in rather than belong.
Right.
Good.
That's good. I'm tolerated. I'm not necessarily accepted.
Right.
Unity is centered around the same values, ideology, but also person. In this case, it would be Jesus. And as we center around Jesus, we can all bring our individuality to it. And not lose our individuality, but join into this community that is focused around following Jesus.
Yeah.
This is the big difference.
How does one discover their individuality, like outside of or within the community? Like from the perspective that you're sharing.
Well, I think a healthy community celebrates the individuality of each person. You know?
Well, for me, I'm like, sometimes I'm really scared to be different. So how do leaders let individuals know it's okay to be different here? Maybe.
What do you think?
Does that make sense?
I think it's in a healthy community, which is what I think we're trying to be, is you celebrate people who are different, who are being different, who are asking. Like, I mean, I think even the fact that we open up questions and we don't have any like rules other than, clear and concise and all that stuff. But like people who are, it's interesting to me, people who are church leaders of some kind that visit us, they always ask me like, how do you keep it from getting out of control? And it's like, well, we don't really have anything that we do to keep it out of control, so to speak. We let people ask the questions that are on their minds, and we celebrate that. Like, we celebrate the curiosity. We invite a different point of view. Like, we're not afraid of that. And hopefully that's a message that's being conveyed. Right. We're not trying to, get everybody to read the same book, do the same thing, think the same way. Like, we invite curiosity about the things that are different. And hopefully that makes people feel comfortable comfortable enough, or like that they can belong by being different.
Well, we have different goals. We're not trying to control it.
Right.
So when somebody asks, how do you keep it from getting out of control? The answer to that question is, we're not.
Yeah.
It could get out of control.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes down.
I've taken judo.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah. And sometimes it goes down paths that invoke a little anger. It did one time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes down paths where the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. Because control would be, you don't get to ask that question. Control would be, you're invoking an emotion in me that requires me to shut you down. So I'm going to shut you down. Control would be, this is out of bounds. We've got boundaries here. Here's out of bounds. Now, granted, there's some questions in there that you don't want to ask. Like, why did you vote for Trump last year? Those are questions that are out of bounds. Because that's not relevant, not because we're trying to control the narrative, but because it's not relevant
and it's not helpful to the community.
And we've had people show up who, like, their first or second time they come, they raise their hand and they talk and they ask a question and they
can't believe they can.
Well, and they reveal things about their own story that quite frankly would be really dismissed in other communities.
Right.
Like whether it's how they live their life or the way they believe about something that some community. No, but like, I mean, there was like one person, I just remember like one time there was somebody who said something and it was like about the way they believed. And it was not a conventionally Orthodox Christian way of thinking. Yeah. But it was like, okay, that's where you're at. And like, we're so glad you're here.
Right.
Like, and we're not glad that you're here because we think we can fix you.
Right.
But we're glad that you're here because you have different ideas and you feel safe here and you feel welcome. And we actually trust the Holy Spirit enough to, bring us into alignment or you into alignment or whoever it is that needs to be, like that in unity with him and not necessarily with Mike or with Kevin or with Sherwine, like that's.
Yeah.
So
Suzie,
then as leaders, what?
Can I interject something before you ask that question?
It flowed off of what she said, kind of. But,
okay, well then do it.
So then as leaders, are y'all publicly exercising self-control? Is that what's happening?
What do you mean?
Oh, good question.
You're not controlling anyone else, but you are controlling like yourself in regards to like if the question is jarring or if something is surprising, you're like simply like, oh wow, why does that shake me up? And then you try to control yourself, I guess.
I don't know that control would be the word I would use. Okay. I want to be really present and connected to the community.
Yeah.
So there are questions I don't understand sometimes, or there are questions that are coming out of left field, or for me, I want to. I don't feel like I'm exercising control. I want to be curious. That's the thing I'm kicking into gear there is, hey, what's behind this or what's happening in the room. And so here's the difference for me, Sherwine. I don't know if this helps, but as an individualist in an individualist culture, the community has always existed to further my individualism. And I want to flip that. I want to see my individualism as contributing to the community.
Okay.
That's the flip I'm wanting.
That's good.
So I come with a gift to teach. I can use that gift to teach to bring glory and honor to me, right? From a position of authority or power or platform or whatever. Right. And I've done both. I can use that gift to help, hopefully, the community to flourish. That the shift for me has been a massive one. Okay. I don't exist for me. I exist for the community in my meanness. Does that make sense?
Oh, Lord.
I have a really kind of a weird example.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can edit this out if it doesn't fit, Edwin. But so when we
go
through
well, Grant is in Sweden. So.
When we talk about like the body, let's just go with the body metaphor.
Yes.
Okay, where you going?
I'm a nose.
Not where I went yesterday. But so last year or like 2 years ago, I think it was, I broke my left elbow.
It was like the Winter Soldier.
Yes, I had like a really cool brace on and everything.
You were so badass.
So I broke it.
Kept the gun tucked in there. So good. I'm sorry. I wouldn't interrupt.
Keep going, Suzie. I'm sorry, but it was just you looked so cool.
I did look kind of cool. So
and she broke it roller skating, which is even
was
better.
Not cool.
So we didn't really announce that part of that. You just was kind of.
Can I continue with
that?
that?
Sorry, go ahead.
But that's one of the best parts.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Roller skating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I broke this elbow. I went to PT. It healed. Blah blah blah. But I haven't really since then started exercising until the last couple months.
Your chiropractor noticed.
So, no. I've been lifting weights.
Okay.
And that was my left elbow I broke. But I've noticed that on my my right arm, it's like very sore and kind of like there's like a little bit of injury in my muscles here. And I've realized it's because my left arm is much weaker than my right arm. Mm-hmm. So when I lift weights like one-on-one, mm-hmm. like this arm, it's easier to move. And this arm, like it takes a lot of extra strength. So what I've discovered is when I'm lifting like a barbell, mm-hmm. I'm overcompensating on my right side mm-hmm. for my left side. So my left side continues to be weak. And now my right side is also getting injured mm-hmm. because it's overcompensating for this. Mm-hmm. So it's over-functioning for this part. And now both are compromised. And so my body is not in the fullness of operation as it is meant to be.
Mm-hmm. So preach.
So like you know this I do have to individually work this arm now a little differently than I do this arm so that I can bring them into alignment with each other with the whole body. Right. If that makes sense. Yeah. So there was another question that was asked over the weekend about like, well, all this work on the body and focus on each other and the community, how does that work with like, you know, bringing other people into the body and reflecting mm-hmm. Christ's love to people who don't respond? Well, the whole body, Christ gave himself to the body so that we would love one another, so that others would know him by our love. Mm-hmm. So the functioning of this body showing up in the world as it's fully meant to show up into the world is how it benefits the earth, the people in the earth that I've been given to. Yeah. So again,
there it is.
It's not there to serve me. I am not here to serve me, but there are parts of me that I do need to care for and pay attention to so that I do show up to my community and to the world as God has intended me to.
Yeah, I hear you.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. It's just, you know, everything about Journey and the conversations we have here, y'all say one thing and then I have 7 things that come out of the one thing that's said. But I hear you, and yeah, it makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to qualify. We need to put a bow on it because we got to go to staff meeting.
Yeah, we do.
But just if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this is a little off for me, I think you need to understand is that we are very aware that Journey's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. We're very aware of that.
And also, it's taken us 3 years of this conversation to kind of even be able to talk about it in this way.
And there are. And what you're hearing may not sound safe to you, and it may not appeal to you. It may be, you know, you got a bunch of questions, you got a lot going on, and we're not pretending that we've got some kind of magic formula. We're not pretending even that we're doing it absolutely right. But we are having the conversation in such a way that allows for a different experience than what you might have at another church. I'm not saying that a bunch of other churches aren't doing it well and aren't doing it, we're not even saying they're not doing it right or wrong. This isn't about right and wrong. This is about creating environments that allow people to grow in their faith with Jesus. And this is a unique one. And what you heard today may not sound safe.
No, I mean, you might as well tell them about the branding change. We're renaming the church Heaven's Gate, and or the Family. We're not sure which one of those. We think
I didn't know that.
We think maybe,
yeah,
you know. So we got a new brand coming out. It'll be great.
Right, it'll be awesome.
Which
can't wait
I
to get
showed
that
you
mug
in advance to prevent any saucy comments like this.
That's funny. You did.
All right. Well, Sherwine, thank you for joining us.
Sherwine,
come on.
Yes. Yeah. You took time out of your day to come and banter with
and bless
us.
our.
And thank you. We really appreciate it.
We love that you're part of this community.
Yeah, we really do.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Journey Now. If for some bizarre reason you liked it, help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing it on your socials. Journey Now is a production of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Edwin Rivera III produces the show and fixes all the guests' slurping, gum chewing, coughing, and other annoying sounds. Randy Hansen provides technical assistance, even though he denies it. Grant Opperman edits Journey Now and intervenes when necessary to tell the crew that you can't say that. Special shout out to dear listener Brad Erre and dear YouTube watcher Seth Erre. If there's anyone else who makes it through each week, we're so sorry, and thanks to you too.